welcome. Welcome, everyone. It is March already, and we're so glad to have everyone here. We are uh, a center that welcomes any and everyone, regardless of your belief. We are here in open arms. Today, we have a wonderful guest speaker, Reverend Jean Bell, that's going to be delivering a wonderful message to us. March is also Women History Month. So this is going to be a special month of celebration for the women, but of course, it takes the men as well as the women to be able to bring about a balance. So we do look for that balance. We are steady moving forward as a community, looking forward to getting leadership in for the community, for the Center for uh, Spiritual Living Midtown. There will be an email going out inviting everyone to participate in this process. We are here because of you, so it is um, your ideas, your support that we are here today. So we want to continue to be here, and we thank you, and we are very grateful for your support and your thoughts and your contributions, as this is the reason why. You are that reason why we are here today. So what we believe is in our declaration of principle, and if you would join me.
A few of the declaration of principles we live by.
I believe in one God, one absolute power, and first cause to all things.
I believe that this power is perfect love, and it creates out of a desire to express love.
I believe all thought is creative, and how I choose to think creates my personal experience.
I believe in the unity of all life, and the immortality of the individual soul forever unfolding.
I believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of God to all.
And so it is.
So grateful.
Okay, guys, we're rolling with this. So all is in divine order, and that's how we approach it, and that's how we see it. Um, this is a great moment. It is a perfect moment, and we continue in this perfect moment. Um, Today, again, it's kicking off Women History Month. The women's suffrage was a movement that was to give women the right to vote. It was ratified in 1920, and it is now part of the Constitution. It was started by 68 women and 32 men. Again, we cannot do what we need to do without the support of our men. That was a total of 73 years. That is who we are today, women having the right to vote. But I want to throw out another idea about the universe. The universe in and of itself is an intelligent entity. It is an intelligent system that is built on balance, and it continuously moves toward balance. Look for that balance. It is about that balance. It is the yin and the yang. It is the balance of the female energy, the balance of the male energy. And in that, we often will see what looks like chaos to us, but what we are observing is the universe in a self-correcting mode. So when there is maybe things that are happening that we may not fully understand, we can just know that the universe is moving toward the balancing of its female energy and male energy. And having a different angle, sometimes we just won't understand it. It's just how life is. I want to recite to you saying from Eckhart Tolle: the primary cause of our unhappiness is never the situation that we are observing, but it is our thoughts about that particular situation. And that will give us insight on what our approach should be. So I want to do a quick treatment, and the treatment will be for the oneness. So if you would please join me in gathering up your energy, gathering up your essence, gathering up your spirit, just to know that we are one with the infinite, we are one with the universe, we are one with the intelligence, we are one with the magnificent. There is just the one. I am connected to the one, and it is my connection to the oneness that continues to give expression to the beautiful oneness, to give full expression, to give openly to those that are present, to those in the world, to those that exist, to those that we know, to those that we do not know. It is this idea of oneness that gives us insight into who we are. I am one with the oneness. It is this clarity in mind that says, I am. And for this wonderful oneness, we give thanks. And so it is.
It's the power of women. United we stand. We're making a difference when we join hands. It's the power of women who will heal this world. The power of women. The power of women. Power of women. It's the goddess, it's the matriarch, it's the maiden, it's the crone. Every color, every race, through the ages it's been shown that women have compassion. Women show the way to a world that's filled with peace and love. Let me hear you say, it's the power of women. United we stand. We're making a difference when we join hands. It's the power of women who will heal this world. The power of women, yeah. The power of women. It's just the power of women. As we stand in this circle, feeling our connection, we can feel the power move as we state our intention to bring peace to this world and right all the wrongs. Joining now in sisterhood, we lift our voice in song and sing. It's the power of women. United we stand. We're making a difference when we join hands. It's the power of women who will heal this world. The power of women, yeah. Power of
that. And just the images of the different women, um, absolutely fabulous. I just want to take this opportunity to shout out to the women here in Center for Spiritual Living Midtown. Greatness to you. And again, a thank you for all that you do. And my special friend, Sylvia, we certainly appreciate all of the contributions that the women have made. And of course, they always tell you behind every great woman, there is a great man. Men, we love you too. We have a special woman that will be joining us here and giving us the message today that falls right in line with the wonderful women that were just shared with us. Reverend Jean Bell serves as the Associate Minister at the Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta, and over the last 12 years has served as SCLA in many capacities, including practitioner, board member, education director, and bookkeeper. Reverend Jean Bell hauls from Reverend Jean Bell hails from Brooklyn, New York, and has lived across the country and abroad before finally settling in Stone Mountain, Georgia, with her wife, Rachel Cooper. She was introduced to Science of Mind in 2001, became a licensed practitioner in 2005, and a licensed minister in 2022. In a previous life, Reverend Jean Bell served in the U.S. Army as a drill sergeant, and we thank you for your service there. Moved into civilian life as an auditor, and finally, her deep love for the science of mind and spirit philosophy has called her to ministry. Reverend Jean is also the author of a children's book titled Brookie's Adventure, a metaphysical children's book that helps a child understand that God is in all things, expressed through all. Please help me and welcome one great lady, Reverend Jean Bell.
To say. Good morning, CSL Midtown. It is so good to be with you again. I don't even remember the last time I was here, but I'm here again, and I'm excited to share this talk with you. I've changed it 11 million times. So if the quotes don't come up in order, that's why. So our CSL monthly theme is the flow of coming and going, breaking barriers, celebrating women then and now. And I'm going to talk about faith. And since it's Women's History Month, I'm going to talk about the founding women of the New Thought movement. I love the fact that Barbara incorporated the fact that there's a yin and yang to all things in life, that feminine energy and that masculine energy, and it flows through all of us, the divine feminine, the divine masculine. We are all truly incarnations of the one spirit, filled with its love, filled with its strength and its power. And as adherents of science and mind philosophy, we are all taught to be mindful of our thoughts. That if life is not going the way we want to, we can change our thoughts so that we can have a better life, better circumstances. We are reminded that our thoughts and our feelings are creative, and that the indwelling spirit is ever responsive to us. But sometimes the element of faith is not emphasized enough. Now, Diego, I think it is out there online. Not this quote, Diego. I added this one. Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind and Spirit, he said in the Declaration of Principles, also known as What We Believe, he said so beautifully that we're surrounded by a creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thoughts and acts upon it. Yet sometimes this creative mind, the subjective mind, doesn't seem to be working for us. Oh, make no mistake, it's always working, but maybe not in the way we want it to, because we don't necessarily have a true understanding of how it works. I've had members come up to me and tell me that they don't feel connected, or they don't feel like they're in the divine flow of life. I've asked them, what do they think the reason for this is? And one of the most common responses is that their prayers and treatments are not answered. And the more I ask, and you know I'm going to dig a little deeper, and the more I dig a little deeper, at the root cause of their inability to connect with the creative process and bring forth that which they desire to be, to do, and to have in their lives is a lack of faith. They express the lack of faith in the indwelling presence, not being able to connect to it, a lack of faith in the law of mind, creative process, because they're not really sure of how the thing itself really works. Now, Ernest Holmes, he even defines faith for us. But first, he tells us that faith is the power of prayer. Faith is the treatment that we can use and bring about in our lives. He even defines faith for us and tells us that faith is a mental attitude which is so convinced of its own idea, which so completely accepts it, that any contradiction is unthinkable and impossible. So when we think about prayer, when we think about treatment, if he's telling us that faith is that mental attitude which is so convinced of its own idea, it's so convinced of that affirmation or that treatment, which then is completely accepted by us to already be an established fact in our lives. So then if that's the case, then any contradiction to our treatment and our affirmation is completely unthinkable and impossible. You know, he wrote that in the Science of Mind book in all capital letters. It's on page 283. It was just that important to him that we get this point, that he took the time to make it all caps. And a lot of times I've discovered that individuals' lack of faith have a lot to do with a superficial understanding of how the law of mind works, or how the science of mind principle works in general. In times like these, I'm telling you, we need to have a solid understanding of what faith is and how the creative process works in answering our treatments. And I find that having examples of people that have put faith into action and have had outstanding demonstrations, results, can help build our faith in the universal law. Again, this universal law is always responsive to us. But when we want results, when we really want to see them, we've got to do our spiritual practices, and we have to have faith in the process. And since March is Women's History Month, I want to talk to you today about the women who were at the forefront of the New Thought movement in its beginnings. These women had absolute faith in a power that was greater than they were, and they had demonstrations during some of the most challenging and trying periods in American history for women. But first, before we get into that, and we will, I want to have you ever asked yourself, why do we even have a Women's History Month? Have you ever asked yourself that? Have you ever asked why we have any of these commemorative history months? Last month, I gave a talk on Black History Month, and I pointed out the fact that Black history, as well as women's history, have always been a part of American history. So why are we celebrating women? Why are we celebrating Blacks, South Pacific Islanders? You see, their history has been purposely omitted from the American history narrative. And we have been taught a sanitized version of our American history. And Blacks and women have been purposely omitted because the true facts about their collective histories, interwoven together, will reveal a very disturbing picture of America, the land where not everybody was free. We have been lured into accepting that women's history and all of the other historical commemorative months are sufficient enough to make up for the fact that they have been omitted from the mainstream American history narrative. You might ask, what is the spiritual relevance of the lack of women's history in mainstream history? And what does it have to do with your Science of Mind talk today? I'm glad you asked. Because if a true telling of American history in America had been interwoven into American history from the very beginning, it would show that women's unalienable rights and their freedom have been denied for centuries. The rights of life, liberty, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness, these basic human rights that we revere and hold true as American citizens, have been denied women since the founding of our country. Yes, it's true that women have gained numerous rights in the last 100 years or so, but we now see a repressive history repeating itself again. And therein lies the relevance of telling the truth about women's history, which is American history denied. Ernest Holmes wrote in The Science of Mind, the divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul, and all instinctively feel this. The truth points to freedom under law. Thus, the inherent nature of humanity is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. Anytime we can tell a more true and complete story about our history from a spiritual perspective, we fulfill the divine plan of freedom. So although it's Women's History Month and we like to just recognize women's accomplishments, let's be cognizant that history is also about the journey these women took towards freedom and equality. And that history untold is truly doomed to repeat itself. And we see that now a lot in current affairs. So with that said, I wanted to give you something to think about the next time one of these commemorative months pop up. I want you to ask yourself, why were their history omitted from our historical narrative in the first place? But I digress. Let's get back to the importance of faith and how the founding women of the New Thought movement lived by faith and how they used the universal law to rise above the repression of their day. Now, the New Thought movement has always been a philosophy that promoted gender inclusion and has and continues to be on the forefront of gender diversity. During the 19th century and the early 20th century, New Thought women were impactful spiritual leaders, writers, and teachers. They became founders and co-founders of the New Thought religious movements such as Christian Science, Divine Science, Unity, and they put the New Thought movement front and center on the world stage. Women like Emma Curtis Hopkins, who is known as the teacher of teachers. She taught Ernest Holmes, founder of religious science, Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, co-founders of Unity, Emily Cady, Melinda Kramer, and Nola L. Brooks, co-founders of Divine Science, all taught by Hopkins. And then there was Florence Scovel Shinn, author of The Game of Life and How to Play It, and Genevieve Barron, who studied under Thomas Troward. And that's just to name a few of these founding women of New Thoughts, these powerful women. The New Thought movement also had a great appeal to African American women, resulting in many influential African American ministers, making a New Thought impact in their communities, such as Johnnie Colemon, Reverend Johnnie Colemon of Unity, Reverend Bishop Dr. Barbara King of Hillside International, Reverend Ruth Mosley, also a Unity minister, and so many more. These women not only were great spiritual leaders, but they established churches, and they taught New Thought ideas and gave sermons during a time when women weren't allowed. They weren't allowed to do such things. Some of them lived in a time when they were considered second-class citizens. They couldn't vote, couldn't own property. There were restrictive laws that prevented women from being autonomous and equal. Yet these women knew a greater truth and was not bound by the precedents of their time. You see, it was because of their faith and their ability to use the universal law that they could fulfill their desire. They did not yield to patriarchal rules or limitations. They didn't let gender or race stop them from knowing that they were divine incarnations of spirit and that their word was law unto the very thing they declared to be true. And they declared that they would teach, preach, build ministries, write and publish spiritual books, found and co-found religious institutions. And it was done unto them as they believed because of their faith. These women knew that when they aligned their thoughts, words, and actions with the indwelling presence, they knew that with faith, all things were possible unto them. They knew that God is not bound by precedents, and they knew that their life was the life of God, and they took that to heart and to action and made a way out of seemingly no way. These women inherently knew that their nature was one of freedom. They were women of faith, and they had faith in a power that was greater than they were, and they recognized within themselves that they were worthy of a better way of life, that they were worthy of freedom, and they demonstrated that freedom to all. They lived their freedom regardless of what society said how women should behave, regardless of what the clergy of their day said women should not speak from the pulpit, regardless of any paradigm that they were faced with. They knew a greater truth about who they were. And they had faith in that innate truth. So I offer you this. When life is difficult and your faith feels depleted and you can't get into the divine flow, let us remember these women and their absolute faith in spirit and the numerous adversities they overcame. Let us remember Reverend Johnnie Colemon, a famous African-American unity minister who transcended a segregated America and built a thriving ministry from the ground up with over 20,000 congregants in a time where that shouldn't have even been possible. What was her superpower? Faith. Rev Jean said, faith sees, faith knows. Faith is more than an idle hoping or believing. Faith knows it. Faith knows that God's outpouring of itself is irrepressible, infinite, and absolute. When you are consciously aware of this, your faith grows courageously, and you can trust God to get the best out of the worst. Faith is your spiritual fingers. It reaches into the spiritual realm and lifts your eyes above all material things and points to the Spirit as the source of all. Let's take these women's example and build up our faith of universal law and spirit. Take science of mind classes. Dedicate yourself to spiritual practices of meditation, affirmations, visioning, and fellowship. Let's make faith our superpower. We have a great deal to be thankful to the founding women of New Thought movement for letting divine intelligence express through and as them. For they knew that with faith, all things are possible. And so it is. So let's take this moment to turn within and know that as we go forth this day, that there is only one mind, one power, one source that is back of all things. And that it is the yin and the yang, it is the coming and the going, it is the alpha and the omega. It is the divine feminine and the divine masculine. It is what we are. And we have faith that when we believe that a thing is already ours, so shall it be done unto us. Have that unwavering faith and know that Spirit is always there, always answering. The eternal yes has already been given. And so we move into that knowingness right here and right now, and we let it be so. And together we say, and so it is. Thank you, CSL Midtown.
Drill sergeant.
Silly.
Push the audio button. There we go. Sorry, everybody. All right. Thanks, Rev Jean. Awesome. We were having audio problems this morning, so I was messing with that. Now it's time for our prosperity affirmation of abundance. So you can use the QR code or go to cslmidtown.org/donate, or there's a basket in the back of the room for those of you lovely people here in the room. So I would like for you to say with me our affirmation of prosperity. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me, multiplied abundantly, and so it is. So here's some announcements for next week. We have a speaker that you all know who's in the room today, Reverend John Karn. And right after this, we've got our annual meeting, so we'll get set up for that. I'm going to do a couple of things to switch around so that people on Zoom can actually come in here and watch. So give me a second for that. But John's going to talk about a still small voice. That's his talk. And that will be online. So that, yes, I do want to say so. So if you're listening, Barbara mentioned it earlier, the co-creation process is starting on Saturday, the 22nd, for the whole congregation. So that'll be Saturday morning. Look for, well, there's a sign-up sheet in the back if you want to do that. We'll talk about it more in our annual meeting. Yes, Lynn? The co-creation process. What is it? Well, all right. So the co-creation process is a process that CSL has in place for us to, it's kind of visioning, but it's also what we need to do to create what we want as a center, what we want to attract as a spiritual leader, and what we want to be in the world. So that's the whole premise of what the co-creation process is. And we invite everybody to work with us on that. So Saturday, March 22nd in the morning, we'll get all the details out to you. If you're in the room and you want to sign up, we can make sure you get the information. We're going to send evites out. We'll keep announcing it every Sunday up until that Saturday. And we look forward to what that's going to bring us this year. Yeah. All right. So that's all here, out, published for you on the web. Get it? And our affirmation of life. Yeah. I leave this place now knowing something better than I knew before. I go forth into the world with a heart full of love and a mind full of good sense. I give the world in a greater way, knowing that I have within me everything I need to create the life I desire. I give thanks for this understanding, and I'm grateful for the spirit of life that lives through me. And so it is. Thanks, everybody.